Okay.
Wonderful. So great to have you here, Winslet. I'm so glad that we were able to make this work. You know, it's crazy what goes on behind the scenes when you're doing something live. So it's so nice to see you. It's been a few months since I last saw you. Thanks for being here.
Yes.
And so, the purpose of today is really so that everybody gets a chance to get to meet you and get to know who you are, so that we can just learn a little bit more about your journey, your path to Portland Acupuncture Studio. So, where do you want to get started? I think we should go way back. Let's go way back into how you got started doing acupuncture.
Yes. That was quite a journey, actually. So I have, I think it started, I don't know, 15 years ago or so. I started receiving acupuncture myself for serious digestive issues. And out of everything that I tried, I had seen many doctors and gastroenterologists and specialists and naturopaths, and I had a beautiful first visit with an acupuncturist and immediately felt more relaxed. And that ended up leading me along the path of feeling, starting to recover from serious digestive issues and regaining health. And yeah, so that's the beginning. And I'll pause if you have another question.
No, I mean, you're doing the Cliff Notes version, but we want to hear all the juicy details. So it's digestive issues, and I'm sure just like anybody who's struggling with health issues, you probably tried a lot of different things, right? And so you went to different kinds of practitioners.
I did. I saw some, I saw a range of practitioners. I even went to some great naturopaths too, but I just needed that extra, not only the one-on-one time, but that physical part of the medicine. Just laying on a table, relaxing with the needles, really got me back into more of a rest and digest mode, parasympathetic nervous system mode. And at the time, I was working on the legislative side of working in women's health at the same time. And so, I was like trying to help take care of other women and their health priorities and their goals. And then I was kind of like not doing a good job taking care of myself. But through acupuncture, I was able to regain a foothold and sort of build back my digestion, which helped with strength, which helped with recovering everything. And I knew I wanted to study the medicine. And work one-on-one with people on their own journeys and hearing their stories and help them to recover.
So this is almost like a second career then, right? So you had a whole other thing you were studying, or you had studied and you were already well into your career, but it was related, right? So it's still women's health. So, was it, I don't know. Now it's just like 2020 hindsight or speculation, one or the other, right? So when you look back, you say, that was a stressful time and that sort of led to these issues, or, was it something that you just thought, this just led me to my true career as an acupuncturist? What do you look back on and say about that time?
Yeah, I would say that this is a more fitting career for me, to work with people one-on-one, to be more of a healer rather than trying to work on Senate bills and House bills, and the nitty-gritty of the legal process is not, it's something that I learned to work in, but I definitely feel more at home in this sort of atmosphere and in this profession. And then I really enjoy hearing people's stories, not only from the standpoint of, okay, here's the treatment we're going to pursue based on your particular story, but their story gives us, each person's story is, I don't know, an important part of their own journey. It's an important part of figuring out what may have led to where they are now, in terms of difficulties with, let's say, pain or digestion or fertility, and piecing together where to treat that root cause, where it began, and how to kind of peel away the layers of the onion so that we can treat that root cause and get the person back to a stable place and have a foundation for health.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. I don't know if I had ever shared this with you, but I also, during grad school, I studied public policy. And so I was in a technology and policy program because I used to be an engineer. So some of my friends and colleagues or classmates went on to work in the Congressional Budget Office. And so I do feel like you, like that is a whole different route, and one that I think is definitely admirable and necessary. But I also find it extremely fulfilling, like you, to work one-on-one and to work very closely with my clients in what we do, and just to doing kind of what I'm doing with you is just like getting to know people and learning their stories. So I do think that, even today I had this big team meeting with one of my clients, and it's really interesting to hear the narratives behind everything. There's always a story that comes behind something that happens. And I like how you're kind of piecing it together, almost like a detective, like you're looking at this like, okay, all these things that happened, they layers on layers, you said peeling back the onion, and then you come to this, arrival of something that improves their health or changes their lives, right? So, so now, and you've been studying, you've been practicing acupuncture for quite a while now, Chinese medicine, acupuncture. Yeah. And you've recently started with Portland Acupuncture Studio with Lisa Tongol. So can you tell us about like kind of what happened before then and how you kind of got to that place?
Yes, absolutely. So, of course, went through pretty rigorous Chinese medicine studies and East Asian medicine studies in general at Oregon College of Oriental Medicine here in Portland, Oregon. And then I went on to practice in New York City for a bit, also working with people one-on-one, doing acupuncture, focusing more on treating pain and some women's health and digestive issues, because all of it sort of goes together typically. And then came back and started practicing in Portland, Oregon at a clinic where we were mainly looking at a lot of pain management, a lot of people with chronic pain conditions, and what we call comorbidities. So maybe women who had fibromyalgia, but they also had maybe something else that they were dealing with. So treating those together. And then I met Lisa Tongol, and we discussed the possibility of just focusing in on more women's health oriented sort of practice. And so based on the fact that I had this history of working on women's health legislatively and then treating women's health and pain conditions for almost a decade now, and then kind of moving into more just focusing on women, on their health goals, on fertility, on pelvic pain, on pregnancy, supporting pregnancy, and then also still working on all the things that I have been treating for the last decade in terms of pain conditions and digestion and anything else that might arise that could impact fertility and women's health in general. But I can go into more detail, but I feel like I'm getting too nitty gritty, but yeah.
Nice, nice. No, it's never too nitty-gritty because this is about you. So I love hearing it and knowing, what kind of background you have. And of course, chronic pain is going to be an issue, anytime you're in the health and wellness industry at this point. And so I'm sure that's extremely valuable to have for your patients. Um, so I was wondering also, when when you're working with your clients now, your patients now, because you're open, right? Is it
Yes, we are fully open. I'm at home, so I'm not masked and wearing what I usually wear, but we are safely treating people, and it's a really comfortable and warm environment, even during COVID. So yeah, we are open.
That's great. Yeah. So I'm wondering how, what was it like for you during this time? Let's see. I think you came on board after COVID had already started. Is that right?
I did. And what was it like for me?
Mhm.
I think having Lisa there at the studio and she has her procedures and policies in place, it was really easy to kind of safely move in and start working with people right away on their health concerns. And yeah, I mean, it's been actually really lovely, oddly enough, during this time when people are maybe going through stress of just managing their health, but also stress of managing their health and how does this all occur safely during COVID,
Mm.
and just the background stress of it all. But working with people in a way that's we have a safe space. People are resting comfortably on a table. We're masked, but this has become sort of normal and routine.
Okay.
And they get to rest on a warm table with like warm lamps over them and feel like they're in a little cocoon and have soothing music in the background. We are a medical clinic, but it feels a little, I mean, we're not a spa, but it feels a little like going to the spa, which maybe not everybody is comfortable with doing. But I like being that other option for people where they can get away from home, but they can be in a safe space at the same time and receive a nice treatment. So
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
So how does it work? I mean, does somebody who's a new patient do their consultation with you via Zoom, or do they just come in? Yeah.
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 Well, they have an option of doing either. We're always, we're welcome to do telemedicine, but our patients are welcome to do telemedicine. But really what we like to do is see people in person if they can for physical acupuncture treatment. And I can also feel pulses and check other areas of the body that need checking physically with palpation or with touch.
Mhm.
But we always check in with people, and for better or for worse, they're having to do a little response to an email of, any exposure to COVID we need to know about, and we'll cancel and then reschedule appointments. We take everyone's temperature at the door. We take everybody's pulse at the door and check their oxygen levels at the door. And then we clean the room and safely set aside a space for them so they can sit on a particular chair, have their nice coat hanging up on the door, which I've already cleaned for them. So it's a little, maybe slightly different than it would be in normal times, but people are still coming in for that physical appointment. And if we need, we can also do telemedicine. But I kind of like to do, if we can, more in person right now while we can. So
Right.
and I expect that we will for a long time be able to do in person, but
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. And so I know, obviously there's patient privacy, but can you share with us some of the stories of some of your patients that you're really most excited by, most proud of?
I'm like, I wonder what I can share and what I can't. Well, I need to, I won't say the name of the person, but I have seen a few women already just in this last 2-month period who have come in for infertility treatment, and in conjunction with IVF, and who are pregnant. So that is great news. There's some positive news during this fall COVID and election and everything else that's happening. There's really good news out there. So I'm happy to see that happening. I also was able to support a wonderful new mother to give labor in about 27 minutes from the time she checked into the hospital, and she was happy with it, very safely, and she shared some photos with me. So it's just nice to see during this time, like, there's lots of increase in health for people. There's, very smooth IVF processes happening and smooth births happening. And I just love to be in this place where I can support these women, just, being women. So, yeah.
That's great. Can you also share with us, just kind of like the other side of the coin, what are some of the challenges that you faced that have been, just either hard for you in your career or recently during COVID, either way?
I think one, for better or for worse, we are wearing masks, and I'm also wearing like a plastic eyeglass cover, and women are coming in and they're telling me some really difficult stories. Maybe they're going through the process of infertility and, getting support for that. And so they might be sharing difficult stories, and I'm trying to, as best I can, communicate with them with my eyes and be a good listener. But I think sometimes it's really hard to come across as a good listener and warm and thoughtful when you can't reach out and touch, you can't all the time, and you can't really give hugs. So that's a bit of a challenge right now. I would say, yeah, so that's interesting. But typically within the first visit, by the end of the visit, we're all very comfortable with each other and able to, talk about life and share stories and hopefully be relatable by the end of that first visit, so that people do come back and do feel like, there is a human on the other side of this mask, and we're just kind of ready and waiting for ready and setting aside a safe space and healing space for people to come into. So, yeah.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. So, I know that you are also looking for new patients. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
So who ideally do you want to, walk in that door?
Yeah. Ideally the people that I want to walk in that door are women who are maybe frustrated with their experience of fertility, or having trouble with fertility. And I mean, that would be my number one ideal patient. And I do see some of those patients right now. And, just because they may have had some problems in the past or issues in the past, I would really like to hear more of their stories so we can, again, treat that root cause for them to move along and have more success with fertility. The other patients that I typically see, and sometimes it is, these are also women working on fertility, are patients who maybe have some sort of pain condition that keeps them from being comfortable throughout the day, or being able to get back to exercise, or being able to cook a beautiful meal. People with shoulder pain I've seen, people with back pain, lots of people with tech neck these days from sitting at a computer at home and maybe having not the perfect setup that they would as they would in their offices. So that would be another type of patient that I would see or would love to see. And then I think third, but very important too, I also end up working a lot with people on their digestion, because in Chinese medicine, we see it as a basis for good health everywhere. If we're taking in the nutrition that we need, we should be able to have a pretty good immune system and be able to carry ourselves. So if people are having some sort of digestive issue, and it might be secondary to fertility or it might be secondary to pain, I typically love to see these types of people too and see if we can get them back to a better, for lack of a better term, like rest and digest mode, so that, you know, stress isn't impacting their digestion, or figuring out if there's something that they might have a little bit of a sensitivity to, and what can we take out and what can we add in for better nutrition. So yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Wide range, but yeah.
That is a range. Yes. I was prepared though. I feel like, you know, that is spot on. That's what I would have said. That's what I know about you, Winslet. So I'm really glad that you know yourself, you know your specialties, you know who you want to see. You know, there are a lot of practitioners, there are a lot of acupuncturists out there. So, you know, just coming from this marketing side, how do you stand out? How do you say, this is how I'm different? This is my stake in the ground. This is what makes me me. What can you speak to that a little? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but this is
so hard. That's such a good, hard question. Thank you. I love it. So I think one of the things that makes me stand out and is, as a clinician, the biggest piece is really being able to listen to people and to maybe stop talking so much and stop asking so many clinical questions of people, and just be able to hear. You know, for example, maybe you start with some sort of knee pain, and in fact, that's kept you from hiking the way that you usually would love to do to relieve stress. And, you know, just hearing those types of stories tell you, like, what is the patient's goal? That person's goal is to be able to hike again. And it's not to be able to hike again just because, you know, they want to climb a mountain. Not only do they want to do that, they're also like, this is how they're overcoming stress. And so it's an incredibly important health goal. It's not something that's just, you know, it's a recreational thing that they may or may not want to accomplish. Like, listening to a person's story, to me, that's one of my strengths in the treatment room, because it tells me exactly when progress is made, what a patient's goal is, and then I can work on how to get them there. And it might be through acupuncture, it could also be through herbs, it could also be through nutrition, but we can kind of give an outline and kind of create a, what do I want to say, like a, I don't know, an outline or a goalpost for them, so that we're working together on creating the outcome. It's not just my needles or my expertise, it's our needles together, our expertise, and knowing what makes things feel better, what makes things feel worse, and where the end goal is. So that's,
I love it.
Kind of, I just have a different approach in that way.
Yeah. I definitely think that your approach is very strong and it's very collaborative. And so, you know, just putting that out there and kind of describing how you work with patients and achieve the goals that they've set out for themselves or that you've set together, I think is really powerful. So I love the work that you're doing. I love that you're working with Lisa over at Portland Acupuncture Studio.
This is so incredible. It's so amazing to work with Lisa, who's been in fertility since 1999.
Yeah. So what's your experience like with working, you know, in this new studio with Lisa, who's like this fertility guru? What's it been like for you?
Honestly, we are all masked and we are 6 feet apart, but it is such a warm and lovely practice, both from the Portland Acupuncture Studio side of the practice and also all of the wonderful obstetricians, gynecologists in the office, nurse practitioners in the office, MAs in the office. Everyone, from the moment people walk into the door and we're checking their temperature, everyone is warm and friendly. And I think it's just a really safe space for women to have a wonderful, wonderful treatment. No matter if you're getting acupuncture or if it's coming to check in for your annual exam, like it's just a wonderful, I don't know. I can't say enough about how good the space feels from top to bottom. So it's exciting.
That is so great. I love to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that today, and for being here and just being open to sharing your story and some of the things that make you stand out in your practice.
Molly, last questions. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Is there anything that you're feeling like, wow, I really wish people knew this? Like this is something that a lot of people get wrong, or a lot of people have misconceptions about. I really wish people knew.
I guess needles.
Needles. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about it.
Is that okay?
Yeah, talk about it.
So to me, I have no trouble with acupuncture needles, and I don't even get my eyebrows waxed. I cannot do it. It's too painful. So it's, needles, it's like people get so afraid of that piece of it. And most of the time I put in needles and my patients fall asleep on the table in a safe way, of course, but and just relax with them. And so many people, as soon as I put that first acupuncture needle in, I tell them, okay, that's acupuncture. And they were like, is that it? I didn't, maybe they feel something, maybe they don't. But basically, like, at worst, it's like a mosquito bite. And then it goes away after a few seconds. And most people just relax and rest on the acupuncture table. So I don't know. A lot of people are afraid of needles. And I think, especially some people going through the IVF process, maybe they're kind of tired of so many large hypodermic needles, but several acupuncture needles will fit inside of those. So these are so flimsy in a good way and very gentle to receive. So I think that's one thing that I would tell people about, like, is the acupuncture needles themselves. And of course, the side effects of helping to reduce stress, the helpfulness to like increasing microcirculation, especially to the ovaries for women undergoing, needing help with fertility. But yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I forget sometimes that needles they cause a lot of stress for people. So that is really good to point out. These are not like your typical, when you get a shot or flu shot or whatever, tetanus shot. It's not like that. No. They're very thin. You almost don't notice them. And then there is something to it, right? Like it causes such a relaxing kind of reaction, right? I feel like it's almost immediate. So
absolutely.
Of course, everybody's different, right? Everybody's going to respond differently.
Everybody will respond differently. I guess one more thing while we're on it, though, is that, sometimes people will say, well, I did acupuncture once and, it didn't relieve my shoulder pain that had been happening for 3 years. So I'm sorry to tell those people that's typically, you need more than one visit. Especially if something is very chronic, right, you'll need a few visits to get back to where you were. So not allowing just a little bit more than one visit is a good thing. Although you'll be relaxed that first visit, I promise. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yes, that is a good point too. That it's not just like this silver bullet, you go in once and you're cured of everything. It's a process, right? So it's different for everybody, right? Like, so you're not just saying like, oh, you have this condition, it takes 3 visits, or this condition, it takes 6 or whatever. So it kind of depends on the person.
Depends on the person, but then there are a lot of things that, do take multiple interventions. So that's true in most medicine. So I stand by acupuncture for being very helpful, nonetheless. Yes.
It's wonderful.
Success with it.
That's great. Well, it's so nice seeing you here. Thanks for joining me live so that we can share, just more about you and what you're doing. Such great work for women and women's health in not only fertility and digestion, but also chronic pain. And, I'll be sure to post the link to your profile on the website underneath this post.
Oh, great.
And so that people can get in touch with you. And
Let's do.
if you have any other last closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, it's just a beautiful sunny day. I hope people are getting out there while they can and getting out in nature and relaxing while they can.
Yes,
when they can. Not while they can, when they can.
Get out in nature, everybody. Why are you watching the Facebook Live? You should be watching it outside. No, thank you so much, Winslet. Thanks everybody for watching. If you're watching on the replay, thank you so much. And definitely share. We want to share this message of women's health and just that we're here for the support of women, and also not just women, right? Like, so you help other patients.
I do. I see male identifying patients as well, and certainly female identifying patients as well. So yes, the full range of human beings we love to see.
I want you to feel better.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome.
Thank you.